Welcome to the Quiet Man series, Chapter 3. The chapter is entitled Delay the Gratification, subtitled Stay Active. I think the real point of this chapter is that transition from childhood to young adulthood. As you had heard at the end of Chapter 2, I had been blessed really with getting a cadetship in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. But what struck me is the real lessons in life come after school. When I left school, I'd had a job, £25 a week. Taking the cadetship with the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, I got £10 a week. And a lot of people scratch their heads. Why would you give up that much money for so little money? I knew in my heart, I knew in my gut that I was actually destined for better things than working in a bottling factory at Schweppes. So I knew actually it was the right thing to do was to sacrifice at that point in time, hence the delay the gratification. And I wrote a paper on this years later called Invest in Yourself. Back to the real lessons, what was happening? We were being trained to be the engineers that kept the Britain's fleet going at that time. Now Britain actually had a massive merchant fleet. I think the statistics at the time were the British fleet probably delivered 50% of the world's goods, and thousands upon thousands of people were employed in the merchant navy. And we were being trained to run, basically the chief operating officers of the engine room, to keep the whole thing going. So a lot of responsibility was going to come our way once we got through the cadetship. And we had our 50-year reunion just recently. And my wife said it was like being with a bunch of 68-year-old teenagers. We still had an incredible zest for life, everybody that attended. When you do your cadetship, you do 2 years at college, a year at sea, then a year back at college before you go to sea as a qualified engineer. 2 years at college just whizzed by, but I loved it. I was actually doing lessons in things I appreciated. I could actually make sense of what I was learning. A year at sea, that was quite Kafkaesque at the beginning. We were assigned to join this ship. It's called RFA Pearleaf. Now I was joining it with another cadet called Andy. And we could see RFA Pearleaf snugly alongside in Clarence Yard across the Portsmouth Dockyard. They told us to join it in Invergordon, which is on the way to John O'Groats in Scotland. And we called them up on the phone and said, why do we need to go up there when it's down here? They told us to obey orders and join it anyway. So we got our tickets, we took the train up to Scotland, and of course it wasn't there. So they had to put us up they actually put us up in a castle for some reason for a week when we finally joined the ship. We joined the ship, and where does it sail to? Portsmouth. So a very, very a good introduction to Kafkaesque bureaucracy, to say the least. Very quickly we were on deployment, and we ended up doing a trip, pretty much a trip around the world. But the halcyon points, the ones that really stick in my mind, was second engineer came into the boardroom one day and said, right, you two on the deck in 3 minutes, you're in training. What? We were sitting there with a drink and a cigarette, and he said, no, on the deck, get your plimsolls, get your shorts on the deck now. And we were in the middle of the Atlantic, and these two junior engineers were smirking. He said, you can join them too, you're this ship's relay team for the race coming up in Puerto Rico. And so when people ask me how did I start running, I can genuinely say I started running in the middle of the Atlantic. I actually did love running, and it's one of the things that stuck with me through my whole life, which is the subtitle to this chapter, Stay Active. So that was my introduction to bureaucracy. My oldest friend at this point was a chap called Steve. He grew up in the same street as me. In fact, our mothers used to push us down the street in our prams together. That's how long I've known him. I'd joined the Merchant Navy. Steve had gone on to university. And we used to keep in contact. And on one of the leaves, I actually met up with him. And the conversation sowed a seed that will unfold in the chapters ahead. But the idea was that if Steve could go to university, I could too. But taking my own lesson here and delaying the gratification, I stuck with the Navy for another, at that point, 5 years. So The lesson for this is chapter 3, delay the gratification, and it all works out in the long run. More lessons to come in chapter 4 tomorrow. If you've liked this, please give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you very much.